Hello again, everybody, and welcome to You Bet CaneSport with Lee Sterling, our weekly look at the Miami Hurricanes and a little bit more from the gambler's perspective. I'm Gary Furman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined as always by Lee Sterling himself from Paramount Sports. And Lee, let's start out. I know you were in College Station last weekend, and I was in College Station, and let's start out talking about what we saw in the Miami Texas A&M game, and I personally left the stadium encouraged, even though Miami lost. I thought they played a very good physical ball game. I thought they obviously lost because of the mistakes that they made, all of which I felt could be corrected. Your thoughts coming home?
Well, that's most of it, and the offensive and defensive lines were certainly played better than I thought they would. And I think we don't have real far to go there. So can we win a national title with either of those offensive and defensive lines? Maybe not, but
not anymore.
No, but I'm talking about, we're talking about the level
of course,
of play.
Yeah.
But I think it's better than we thought. And there's depth. They played some pretty good athletes in Texas A&M. But then I saw some other things that I didn't like. And, hey, you're going to have turnovers. You're going to have mistakes. That happens. I don't think the special teams gaffes are a true indicator of what our special teams are all about. Returning punts or a field goal team just was one of those nights. I mean, it could have been switched around. We could have recovered that fumble, and Stevenson could have recovered his fumble, and then we're talking about, hey, we won the game. So that doesn't bother me. And actually, even the drops don't bother me that much because that happens. Certain games, I think.
Well,
I wouldn't say they were intimidated, but I would say that maybe, when you run a pattern and you're used to running it at home against a team, you might run it a little bit crisper. Maybe also playing a game at night might have affected them, the lights, things like that. And TBD, just wasn't sharp. It wasn't one of his better games. On a scale, maybe a 1 to 10 for him, it was like a 4. And, if he's on, we probably win the game. So all these things, the special teams, the drops, TBD, not playing his best game, probably accounted for the loss. There were some things that really bothered me, and it was great that I got to see it in person. And the things that bothered me most, I don't think we have a receiver on the team that played in that game right now that can play in the NFL or even close. No separation at all. And I thought that, Josh Gaddis's play calling between the 20s was really good. He's forced to run a lot of crossing patterns with his receivers and his tight ends because the receivers just get absolutely no separation. So maybe guys all of a sudden get faster or learn how to elude defenders, but it's not happening right now. So that to me was fine. But you're going to have to recruit some guys that are next level guys there. And also maybe at running back. Our running backs are fine. But, can Jalen Knight, can he play at the next level? Maybe as a third down back. But if you want to win a national title or play for it, you got to get some guys that are next level guys. And they don't have it right now at running back and wide receiver. And then I like Josh Gaddis a lot. I think he's a great play caller. But once he got inside the 20, play calling was less than subpar. I mean, show some different looks. I don't know if you realize this or the average person did on the telecast. They were down. They had lost from the week before 12 or 13 key players. They were down to 2 third-string cornerbacks. And you got to run some plays that are going to confuse them.
And they still held their own.
Yeah, they held their own. That's all they were looking to was to win the game. That's all they cared about. I mean, I'm listening to their going home show on my drive back to Austin, and it was Yahoo City. I mean, you would think they played great, but they didn't. And,
no, they got their butts kicked.
Yeah.
And somehow they ended up ahead on the score. It's amazing.
you've got to win games like that. So when you have 130 yards more than your opponent, you should win 85-90% of the time, and we didn't. So they got to do that. They've got to find in bigger game better play calling inside the red zone, and that wasn't the players' fault. It was the offensive coordinator. I'm sure you brought this up. I've been too busy catching up and watching other games, but Mario probably should have been more aggressive and gone for it on one of the fourth downs, going for a touchdown. And he is a little conservative.
Well, but let me throw this out at you real quick.
Okay.
They did have 2 shots in the fourth quarter to score down 8. So if you look at it like that, he made the right decisions.
Gary, I'm not playing for a tie. On the road,
No, I'm saying they had 2 chances to score.
Okay.
They could have gotten a field goal and a touchdown and won the game outright.
I agree with you, but you play to win on the road. And 4th and 4, I felt 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 coaches go for it there. I would have gone for it.
Still 4 minutes left in the third quarter. I thought he could go either way with it. I think that they initially intended to go for it, but when it ended up being 4th and 4 instead of 4th and 2, I think they decided to kick the field goal.
Sometimes, I mean, you can debate that. It gives you a little more room in the end zone.
They weren't confident throwing the ball down there, Lee, because they were playing basically with 8 defensive backs essentially.
Right, I know.
Yeah. So
the other thing is, at that point, or I thought maybe late in the first half, or certainly once you got to the middle of the third quarter, hurry up. Didn't use it at all. Taking way too long to get plays off.
They don't have the receivers. They don't have the receivers to play up tempo.
Well, you when you're behind, you got to do something to change the pace. And like I said, they were playing 2 third-string cornerbacks.
I know.
They didn't pressure these guys. They didn't fool them one bit. So overall, I think we're about where we thought we were. We're probably 2 years away, in my opinion, from having a shot to make the Final Four. I don't think it's going to happen next year. I don't think they have the talent right now. They would have to have a great schedule and a lot of breaks go their way. Maybe it happens. They get
and another great year in the portal.
Right. Yeah. But it starts with recruiting, and you're not going to get. I mean, there's not going to be like the kid that went to USC from Pittsburgh. Not many of those going in the portal. Maybe a kid wants to come home, but Miami that's out there. That's great. I haven't looked at it that closely, but overall, it's about where we thought we were. I think we're in pretty good shape, but still a lot of work to be done.
All right, so let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Was there anything that you saw in College Station that will impact your handicapping of Miami this weekend?
Yeah.
And moving forward when they play North Carolina and so forth and so on?
I don't think Miami against decent opponents can cover big numbers. They would have to get a special teams play. They have slow pace of play. The more plays, for instance, if I'm coaching and if I had receivers and I had great skill players, I want as many possessions as possible, because the more the possessions, the greater chance the better team wins.
Right.
They don't have that right now. So I don't have a real problem, maybe slowing down the game when they play North Carolina. So that would you don't want to speed it up. They probably have better athletes and maybe a better quarterback right now than we do. So
that game is suddenly going to be very interesting if Carolina could beat Notre Dame this weekend, and I'm looking forward to getting your pick on that game here coming up. So basically, the Canes fan has to be a little bit more conservative in betting on their team looking forward and really pay close attention to the line. And I guess that starts this weekend, Lee. Yep. We got a Miami by 26.5. A similar line against Southern Miss turned out to be too big, which goes along what you're saying, that, big lines are not going to be friendly to this team, and they weren't in the Southern Miss game. What about this weekend? How much do you know about Middle Tennessee?
Well, I know that their head coach, Rick Studstill, played at Florida State. Know him well. I watch a lot of their games and made a change. He went to a different offensive coordinator. which says a lot. He's called the plays for many years, and he decided to bring in Mitch Stewart. He's a guy that was at Murray State for like 4 or 5 years, and then he ended up going to Samford for 2 years. He runs a spread, really good at finding mismatches. And the first game, they played absolutely awful. They got blitzed, but the last 2 games, things started to click for them. I'm not saying they're great. Their quarterback, Chase Cunningham's a senior, been around a long time in the system. So he knows his receivers well. Just took him a little bit of time. Unless Miami gets a special team score, or maybe the defense sets something up, with a fumble return and in Middle Tennessee territory, I think it's going to be tough to cover here. So I'm glad that I was able to see that. And I think we realize that Miami's not going to be a hurry-up team. They're not going to run 85, 90 plays in a college game. And tough to, Middle Tennessee State's defense isn't good. They don't get quality athletes. And also watching our running backs, I think we've got some nice running backs. Do I think that they're guys that can break 2 tackles and probably score a touchdown, 70, 80 yards against quality opposition? Probably not. I mean, they're good.
They weren't doing it the other night. And, there was one runner, Jalen Knighton, had a clear lane to the end zone, and he got tripped up by the ankles because he didn't cut.
Right.
He didn't take a sharp enough cut. Yeah. He was running too straight. He needed to cut left, and he would have been fine and would have scored.
Yeah,
but I think they can get better at that. I think they.
They're going to get better. I said, before the game, I predicted Texas A&M would cover. Said Miami would probably be down 7.
You did.
Try to tie it. It was a little more low scoring than I thought. Jimbo Fisher was concerned. I don't think he threw a pass farther than 15 yards downfield. Did he? Did he throw a bomb at any time?
Not many.
Yeah,
I don't remember one.
So he realized that he didn't have the horses either.
They didn't have the horses either at receiver.
No. The only real, problem on defense was one play where I think it was Steed in the flat against their running back, just didn't get there quick enough. Didn't
get there. They scored on that play. Yeah. I'll tell you though, you said something that kind of scared me a little bit. You said that Middle Tennessee well.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I guess when you do what you do, you have to know everybody well, because you might find an edge on Middle Tennessee game. But that is unbelievable that your research goes that deep and that you're able to watch that much football to where Middle Tennessee well. I mean, I'm impressed.
To be honest with you, I thought they were going to break quicker out of the gate. But now I realize, they brought in a new offensive coordinator, and that might have been why they started slow. So, I will watch almost every team's spring game, looking for guys that, are coming out of nowhere. I want to watch, new quarterbacks and new coordinators, how, even though they're not going to show a whole lot, you can pick some things up the way the quarterback operates and just watch them closely. I'm looking for backup quarterbacks in case a quarterback gets hurt. Sometimes it affects the line. Some other times, not much at all. Like in the case of Texas, they have a good backup quarterback in Hudson Card. So the line doesn't affect it much, and he might be just as good as Quinn Ewers. So I know they're all waiting for Arch Manning, but those are the things I said. And then I'll watch 3 games from the previous year. I want to see a game where everything went right. Want to see a game where everything went wrong, and then a conference game decided by a touchdown. I want to see the play calls of the coordinators and the players and how they that played out. So
and you pretty much do this for every team.
Every team. And obviously what happens is once you watch a lot of games, the games cross over. So you don't have to watch individual games.
You're seeing both teams at the same time. And you're sitting there with a checkbox making sure you see.
Yeah, I start in March and I go all the way through mid-August, and that helps me a lot. But I'm looking at how I would attack as an offensive coordinator or as a former quarterback, how I would attack that team. Doesn't mean that coordinator is going to look at it the way I do. So, that sometimes, you think, oh, this team can pass on this team. In my opinion, he might want to run more because he didn't want to show anything for the following week, so there's always different reasons and things going on. But I think if I had to predict a score, I would say Miami's going to win this game 42-20. The line's 26.5. So
So
I would take
Middle
Middle.
Tennessee and the points. Interesting.
Yeah, and the line is 52. I think Miami's going to score at least 35, 38 points, in my opinion. So I think Middle Tennessee can score. Let's say they score 38, 14 points. I think they can score 14 points. Not that saying that Miami's defense isn't great. Just they're coming off a tough game, and we saw against Southern Miss. Southern Miss moved the ball and scored in the first half. So I would say it's a similar offense, a better quarterback, maybe not as many weapons. Southern Miss had a good receiver, and we pointed him out before the game, and pretty good running back. I don't know if Middle Tennessee has those type of players, but better quarterback. So I would go Southern Miss and the over. Usually you go favorite the over, underdog the under. I would go, if it's not a play I'm releasing to my clients, but I would go Southern Miss and the under. And the over. Sorry, Southern Miss and the over.
All right, so let's shift gears. There's a couple interesting games this weekend that I want to talk to you about. Notre Dame at undefeated North Carolina. Okay, right. Now North Carolina, I believe they play Virginia Tech next week, and then they play Miami. But there's a chance that they come into Hard Rock Stadium unbeaten if they can beat Notre Dame this weekend. The line in that game is North Carolina -1. Mm-hmm. What happens there, Lee?
Like their quarterback a lot, Drew Pine. I thought he was going to be good, but honestly not this good this quick. So he's got a couple receivers that are dinged up. 2 weeks is a long time from now. But the Notre Dame quarterback, Drew Pine, I'm not a fan of, but Drake May, quarterback for North Carolina, is impressive. He's completing over 74% of his passes, 310 yards a game, 11 touchdowns, just one interception. So he moves around. He's not really a runner, but he's able to buy time. And North Carolina has double revenge. This is a game I think they've circled since the offseason. They win.
You get Notre Dame at home, you've got it circled.
Well, a couple years ago, they didn't play well. They fell behind, were never in the game. Notre Dame controlled the line of scrimmage and was the better team that day. I don't think Notre Dame is good enough on offense to win this game, unless, North Carolina just turns the ball over like crazy. So as long as North Carolina's defense, and they are slowly getting better, plays a decent game, I think they're the right side. I think they win this game here, something like 31-24. So
interesting. And I will say this, like, you called this Notre Dame swoon before they played a single game. I mean, you said that they were going to struggle this year, and they obviously are. And what would they be, 1-3 if they lose this game?
Right. Yeah, they're way overrated. I mean, they have one weapon. Tight end Mayer is a stud. I mean, he'll play. He'll be a first or second rounder. Big, strong, fast. Reminds me a little bit of Travis Kelce.
Right.
You can't guard him one-on-one. So other than that, just, Marcus Freeman's doing a good job of recruiting, but it's going to take him probably 3 years to get them to the highest level.
All right, let's talk about another game. Surprise FSU team, is playing at home against Boston College. And the line makers are all bullish on Mike Norvell and the Seminoles. They have made Florida State a 17.5-point favorite in this game. Now, I know Boston College is struggling, but have they fallen that far?
So far, if you watch the product on the field, probably, yes. But the last 3 times these two teams have played, every game's been decided by 7 points. I still think Phil Jurkovec, the quarterback for Boston College, is a quality quarterback. Hasn't played well. I think it's his confidence partially. And his whole line from last year, they were only going to return one starter, and he was really good. He got hurt before the year. So 5 new starters on the offensive line here. I think Florida State's a little overvalued. They're 2-5 against the spread as a home favorite. I personally, if I'm making the line as far as what I think is going to happen, I make the line 10.5, 11. This line, I think, is off the most of any line in college football this week. I think it's an overlay. I think Florida State wins 30-23. I'll take the 17.5 points. It wouldn't shock me if Boston College takes them right down to the wire.
And then that makes the Seminoles also, I think, what 4-0.
Yep.
I mean, amazing, absolutely amazing. What's going on?
I like Florida State more as a small favorite as an underdog. As
Yeah.
a big favorite, they're watching film of Boston College, and they're thinking, "Wow, maybe it's the Blake James effect." I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know, but I'll tell you one thing. I'm going the other way on the Noles as this season progresses. There is no way they are this level football team. They've gotten the breaks, and you need to get them. I mean,
and they're improved, and they are improved. Their coaching. I watched some subtle things. Some defenses that can be attacked. The play calling has been better. I mean, they used to have breaks in coverage. They used to have offensive linemen sometime, Gary, that wouldn't even touch guys. I mean, they're playing harder and they're playing smarter. But are they next level team? No. I still don't think they're on Miami's level.
And these breaks that they're getting here early in the season are going to probably even themselves out as they go forward. I mean, just that's just the way football typically goes. All right, and then we've got Tennessee going. They're at home against Florida. They are an 11-point favorite at home against Florida. Is that too many points there, Lee?
Well, another case of like a team where everything's going right for Tennessee. Hendon Hooker, who is good, but has a tendency to throw interceptions in bunches in big games, has not thrown an interception this year in 3 games. But let's look at the competition. Ball State, Akron, and Pitt, decent defense, but nothing special. But if you buy Tennessee now, it's like buying crypto. You're buying it at about as high as it's ever going to go. It's like Florida State. It's not sustainable, in my opinion. I think they're going to lose quickly here. And they've got some tough games coming up. Anthony Richardson, on the other hand, after that opening week, I mean, his stock is way, way down. They can't throw the ball down the field. I still think they have some receivers like Henderson, the kid from Miami Columbus. Why don't they throw the ball down the field? The kid's 6'4". I mean, make some plays. We see it happen in the NFL. There's so many interference calls. Now, you don't get it spotted where the foul is. It's only a 15-yard penalty, but let some kids make some plays here, and we haven't seen that. And, you talk about teams that have had trouble against other teams. Tennessee has lost 16 of the last 17 against Florida. The last 2 years when they played, the Gators were 17.5 and 19-point favorites, and they won the game 38-14 and 31-19. Wow. So are you telling me in 1 year the talent level has changed that much? I think the line's too high. Like I said, you buy when a team's on the low, buy on the dips. You don't buy on the highs. I think Florida is probably the right side. I think Tennessee wins something like 31-28, but I'll take Florida plus the 11 here.
Do any of those games go to your clients this week?
For the first time this year, I would say there was a very good chance, yes. I would say there's a chance probably 2 out of the 3 games go to my clients.
Interesting. All right.
Yeah.
Mike, tell us how people can get your service at Paramount Sports.
So it's been a great year for us so far. Only had 1 losing week. It was week 1. Since the start of the preseason, 5 out of 6 winning weeks. 2 weeks ago, went 6-3. Last week, 8-3 for the entire week. So they want to hop on board. We have a special at 6 weeks, Super Saver from now through Halloween, October 31st. All my football selections, generally 9 to 12, 9 to 13 games a week, just $397 for 6 weeks. Comes out to less than $80 a week. So if you want to hop on board, just go to ParamountSports.com or call me, not after 12 midnight. Call me before 12 midnight any night I'm up and studying. And I'd be more than happy to talk to you, explain everything. 800-400-9741.
All right, sounds great. And that's a combo of college and NFL games, right?
Right. That's
all right. All right, cool. Well, Lee, this will be an interesting weekend yet again. It always is when you're factoring in point spreads. So looking forward to it, and thank you so much for your insight. And we'll check in with you next week, even though it's an open week for the Canes. We'll check in real quick and see just what you think about things moving forward. So For Lee Sterling, I'm Gary Furman. We thank you for joining us once again on You Bet CaneSport with Lee Sterling, and we'll see you next time, everybody.